Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Revisiting Disney World. This is the series in which I pick a attraction in Disney World and I just talk about what I think they could do, whether it's through a refurbishment or a complete replacement, to make it an even better attraction. This is all entirely based on my own personal opinion. There's nothing here that is based on rumors or speculation. You know, nothing I'm saying is something I've heard through the grapevine. It's just me, you know, having a fun game of playing What If. So today we're taking a look at Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. Now, if you've never been on the ride, it's basically you get into a ride vehicle that's similar, I guess you would call it an Omni-Mover system. Yeah, I think it is. And it's got two little laser guns attached to it, and you go through these different scenes shooting at Emperor Zurg's minions, and you get points, and at the end of it, you have a score. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, this sounds similar to Toy Story Midway Mania, that's because it is. It's almost like the spiritual precursor to Midway Mania. It was here first, but now there's Toy Story Midway Mania. And so when I was thinking about this ride, all I kept thinking was, you know, why would I go on this when I could go on Midway Mania, which is arguably a better ride? And so why not take this attraction and turn it into something completely different? Now, if you've seen my previous videos talking about the history of If You Had Wings and Delta's Dream Flight, the ride that used to exist in this building was basically a free, super advertisement-filled ride for these two different airlines. I wouldn't want to go back to that. I think those rides were very much a relic of an older age when it comes to Disney, and we are not going to see that really ever happen again, where, you know, the ride's sole purpose is to advertise a company. But that said, I think there would be a lot of fun in making a spiritual successor to those rides that still fits within the theme of Tomorrowland, that isn't as sort of on the nose about it. So what I would like to see them do is take out Space Ranger Spin completely and replace this with another ride. Now, I like the idea of keeping it as a slow ride, as an Omni-Mover ride. I think it's unfortunate that we're seeing Omni-Mover rides slowly disappear unless they're like a staple, like the Haunted Mansion or something like that. And I would like to see it themed around basically the same theme that Tomorrowland is themed around, which is what was our view of the future back in the past. Horizons did a little bit about this when that ride existed. It was just a short scene where it took a look at what people in the 1950s and 60s thought that the future today would look like. And of course, it looked nothing like what it ended up actually looking like. But wouldn't it be fun to take a look at the history of the perceived future? And I think this would be a great building to do it in. It would fit in Tomorrowland. That's sort of Tomorrowland. It went from being a park area that was focused on the world of tomorrow to what we thought the world of tomorrow was going to look like. So you have a slow ride. It brings us through different scenes, whether it's through Jules Verne and H.G. Wells and their sort of Victorian look at what the future would be like, to the 1920s and 30s with these giant metropolis-like visions of cities in the future with, you know, hundreds of story tall buildings and levels of streets and cities, to the 1950s, where we were all in space with hula hoops and, you know, going to the space cafe on our space rollerblades and all these fun things, even up to maybe the 80s and what we thought the 80s was going to look like. I think that the carryover theme that you see is that each decade, for some reason, assumes that the future is going to look just like the current decade, but in the future. And so, you know, the 50s, it looked like the 50s in the future. You know, 80s look like the 80s in the future, so on and so forth, because we can't go as far as to just assume what the future's, you know, aesthetic's going to look like. But I think this would be a great place to put it. A nice look at the history. I think it would be fun to look at. I think there's always humor and joy in looking back at what we thought was going to happen. I mean, so much of that is what the Carousel of Progress is, right? The whole ride is, you know, oh, this guy thinks he's going to fly across the Atlantic. He's never going to make it. Or this guy wants to make electric light bulbs. He's never going to make it. And we laugh because we know that they do make it. And I think just as much you could look back and laugh at, you know, people who thought we'd be all flying around in Jetsons cars by this point. So I think that would be a lot of fun. That's just sort of what I think we could do to spice up Tomorrowland, add a little variety. I don't think we're losing a lot there. You know, if you want this sort of interactive video game-like experience, you can still head on over to Toy Story Midway Mania over in Hollywood Studios. So there we go. If you have a ride that you would like me to revisit, or you have thoughts on how you would like to see this ride revisited, maybe you think it should stay exactly the same, or maybe you think it should be completely removed but with something else, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what everybody's thoughts are on all these rides. It's really fun to speculate and play the what if game. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I'm Rob Plays on Twitter. I'm Rob Plays That Game on Instagram and Facebook and everything else. And if you enjoyed this video, I have plenty of other videos on Disney and both non-Disney. And if you want to support the channel, the best way you could do so is just by telling a friend, letting them know. Maybe they'll enjoy these videos as much as you do, or hopefully do. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great week. Whatever you're doing, make the most of it because it makes it so much better and more enjoyable. And I hope to see you all next time for the next episode of Revisiting Disney. Bye, everybody.